10 to 8.
The sex scandal involving one of the biggest charities in the world has deepened, with allegations workers demanded sex for aid and carried out abuse. Oxfam's Deputy Chief Executive Penny Lawrence resigned this week, saying the organisation was too slow to deal with complaints about aid workers hiring prostitutes in Haiti and Chad. Now, the Haitian government is seeking the arrest of Roland van Houwermeren. That's Oxfam's head of mission in Haiti in the period straight after the country's devastating 2010 earthquake. He's accused of paying locals for sex, which is illegal in Haiti. Now, the Haitian president posted a comment on Twitter in French saying, "There's nothing more outrageous and dishonest than a sexual predator who uses his position as part of the humanitarian response to a natural disaster to exploit needy people in their moment of greatest vulnerability." Well, to give you an idea of what's being claimed, here's the charity's former head of safeguarding, Helen Evans. She told Britain's Channel 4 she'd sent an email in February 2015 to her line manager that outlined 3 new allegations of sexual assault coming in a single day.
There was one of women being coerced to have sex in a humanitarian response by another aid worker. Another case where a woman had been coerced to have sex in exchange for aid. And another one where it had come to our attention that a member of staff had been struck off for sexual abuse and hadn't disclosed that. And we were then concerned about what he might be doing. And that was, 3 allegations in one day.
Well, in latest developments, a senior figure in Oxfam says she's aware of past claims of sexual abuse involving the charity's staff in Asia. Lan Mercado says the cases took place in several countries before she started as regional director 2 years ago.
There were cases in the Philippines. There were also cases in Bangladesh. There were whistleblowers coming forward in Bangladesh, as far as I know. There was also a case, I think, in Nepal.
Well, Oxfam New Zealand's executive director is Rachael Le Mesurier. She's in the Auckland studio. Kia ora, good morning.
Kia ora, good morning, Susie.
You've been in the job since 2014. In your time in Oxfam, have there been allegations of sexual abuse against workers that are New Zealand based?
I think the first thing we have to say is that this is shocking. I mean, Oxfam New Zealand, all Oxfams around the world are deeply, deeply distressed by this. This makes us both incredibly upset and very, very angry. And what that has done for us particularly, and you'll appreciate that Oxfam Great Britain, which was the employers of these staff in Haiti back in 2011, and of Helen, who you've just heard speak now, is a separate entity from Oxfam New Zealand, but we're all part of of a member-based organisation, and it matters. These type of incredibly horrible behaviours that have been key of these stories is enough for us to know that we have to do better.
OK, thank you for that, but it doesn't actually address my question. Have there been cases of sexual abuse, allegations that have been brought to light since you have been in the job in the last 4 years?
So what we've done as a result of this is gone back through every single employment file that we have, prior to me, as well as the ones that have been in the last 4 years. We've found 2 cases that have had components of sexual misconduct in them. We acted fast. Those people are not working for Oxfam, and they were moved very, very quickly.
What kind of components of sexual abuse are you talking about?
So we're talking ones that are far, far lower than the ones that are in the allegation of the Haiti, things like inappropriate sexual behaviour, comments, those sorts of things. Can't go too much into detail, as you'll appreciate, but they were ones that we have acted very, very quickly on, and they are a very, very small portion. But it doesn't matter how small. This is a massive wake-up call for Oxfams all around the world. Sure. We have to stamp it out, and we are stamping it out.
Did these cases happen in New Zealand, or did they happen abroad?
One happened overseas and one was here.
Where was the case abroad?
The case abroad was in Polynesia, and because we only work in a small number of countries, I can't go into too much exact detail which country it was, but again, it was a very low-level issue, but it didn't matter to us. It was serious enough for us to say that person could no longer work for Oxfam.
What exactly do you mean? Because people, when you're saying it's low level, I don't know what you mean by low level. And I know it's difficult to talk about this, and I know it's hard when you have to respect confidentiality. But your low level might not be my low level, or indeed any of the listeners' low level.
I absolutely agree, and I understand that. And I also understand that our listeners and our donors are deeply concerned by this, and we do have to rebuild trust. So I'm going to go out and say that one of those cases involved sexual flirting, inappropriate words, inappropriate statements made to
With whom?
With an external member, someone who wasn't part of Oxfam. So it wasn't
How
a direct
old was the
beneficiary.
person?
That detail, as far as we're aware, we're not able to do. We do understand that they were female, but we do not know if they were under 18. And under 18 is the definition of child in Oxfam's world. So that's why it's very important.
Did this involve anything like sex in exchange for aid?
Not at all. Not at all. That is why but it didn't. And for us, the issue is that we cannot be complacent. There's a continuum here. We will not allow the beginning of that continuum, and no way will we allow the end of that continuum.
Okay, what is Oxfam New Zealand's policy around aid workers using sex workers?
We have a code of conduct that is very, very strong on the fact that it's not just it's in breach of that code to have sex workers, to use sex workers. It's in breach of the code for transactional sex. That's when abusing the power that many aid workers can have over vulnerable, particularly women. And that code is very powerful. We also do police checks. We also check with references, and those referees are asked explicitly, is there anything that would cause any risk to any vulnerable woman or young child? And that's a very clear part of our process.
Or indeed to a boy or a man, I suppose.
Oh, absolutely.
But let's just talk a little bit. Let's just talk a little bit about this policy. So, Oxfam New Zealand workers are banned from using prostitutes.
We have a code, so every employee.
Yeah, but does that constitute a ban?
When you're in breach of the code, you're in breach of our employment contract.
And would you be sacked if you were in breach?
We would have to, after an investigation, if it found that was the case, yes, they would.
Definitely.
And that is very, very important to this whole continuum about recognising it's about power abuse. This is about abuse of power.
Absolutely. And does that also include New Zealand? Would Oxfam New Zealand workers be allowed to use prostitutes in this country as well as abroad? So
on the terms of our code of conduct, we're very clear that when people join the organisation, this is explained. People have a choice to join the Oxfam organisation. We fully appreciate where you're going with this, Susie. It's not a crime in New Zealand. But we have set standards above that, and many of our donors and our supporters would expect us to, because of the continuum, because we have humanitarian aid workers where we've got to be very, very clear that that's unacceptable.
So you do it, you lose your job. Speaking of losing such things, are you losing donations? Are you losing money because of this scandal?
Well, at this point, what we're very clear is that that is seen as an Oxfam Great Britain scandal and by many of our supporters. They're deeply disturbed because the Oxfam brand is so powerful. We have very, very small number of donors have cancelled. We've also had donors come back and say that they're going to actually ensure that they both give a little bit more money, and they're there right behind us during this extraordinary storm.
So you're confident, just a yes or no, you're confident that Oxfam New Zealand is clean on this?
I'm very confident.
Thank you very much for your time. Rachael Le Mesurier, Oxfam New Zealand's Executive Director, speaking to us in the Auckland studio this morning. Thank you very much for your time. It's 5 to 8.
The government is reducing the penalty for students who try to rort the no-fees tertiary studies scheme. It had intended that people who wrongly claim the free year of education would be liable to 3 years in prison.